Hey friends, welcome back to Simplified by Singam. Today we are diving into something that confuses a lot of beginners at first, which is variable scope in Python and the global keyword. Don't worry, I'll break it down step by step, nice and simple. By the end, you'll know exactly when your variables are visible and when they are not. Okay, first let's understand the scope. Think of scope like area of the house where a variable is allowed to live, where you can use variable. Like for example, if you put your toy in your bedroom, we call it local scope, and you can only find it in your bedroom, right? But if you leave your toy in the living room, which is a global scope, anyone in the house can see and use it. In the same way, if you put a variable in a particular area, then only up to that extent you can use the variable. But if you put a variable in a way that out of that particular area, out of any area, then everyone can use that variable. So that's exactly how Python treats variables. Not just Python, any programming language treats variables. So a global scope is nothing but it's a variable defined outside any function, which is global. Like anyone can use it, any function can use it, any class can use it, anything can use it. So which is outside the function. You can use it inside the function or outside. Like for example, let's create a variable called x equal to 10, and you created a function, no parameters, and you just print x in it. And when you run this function, when you call this function, you see the output as x equal to 10, which is nothing but 10 as the output. See? So here x is a global variable, and even inside the function we can still access it. Coming to the local scope, it's a variable created inside a function which is local. It only lives inside that function. Outside the function, Python has no idea it exists. Like for example, let's create the same function and you can just give y equal to 5. And if you print 5, and when you call function, what will be the output now? It will print the value of 5 as output. So value y is 5. Now, instead of calling this, let's create, let's directly print y instead of calling the function. And if you run it, see it is throwing some error saying that y doesn't exist. Saying that name y is not defined, which is nothing but y doesn't exist outside the function. You cannot access y because it's not a global variable like x. It's a local variable. It is defined inside the function and only that function have access to use it. So that's the difference between global and local. Global variable is defined outside the functions. You can use it as many times in all the functions. But local variable is defined inside the function, inside that border. You can use it only up to that extent. Only this function can have access of 5. So just keep this simple rule. Global variables are visible everywhere and local variables only visible inside that function. Now here is where beginners sometimes get stuck. What if you want to change a global variable from inside a function? Now here is where beginners sometimes get stuck. What if you want to change a global variable from inside a function? Normally, if you try to assign a value to a global variable inside a function, Python will think you are creating a new local variable. But if you use the global keyword, you are telling the Python, hey, don't make a new one. I want to work with the global variable. Let's create a function called my variable. and you give this value as 5, for example, and you print my variable as output just to check the value of it at this line. And then you're creating my function and you're sending nothing in it. And you just created global my variable and you want to change the value of my variable to 10 instead of 5. And when you call this function, my function, and when you print my variable, you will see the difference. Okay, let's run it. See, the value of 5 changed to 10. So initially my variable is a global variable. Okay. But if you want to use this my variable inside this function, Python will think that you are creating a new local variable instead of reusing this global variable which is already defined outside the function. So in order to tell the Python that, hey Python, the global variable is already defined. I don't want you to create a new variable. I just want to reuse that variable. To tell Python that you want to reuse that global variable, you're just giving global. Now Python will get it that, okay, this is a global variable. That means I don't have to make a new one. I want to work with the global variable. So it will just change the value of the global variable, which is my variable, from 5 to 10. And when you run this function, now the interpreter goes to my function, it will go to the my variable, it will change the value from 5 to 10. And when you print my variable, you see the value as 10. So initially the value of my variable is 5 and now the value of my variable is 10 after changing the value. So first my variable was 5 and inside the function we used global my variable and changed it to 10, and after the function call the global value itself was updated. Here are some of the rules of the global keyword. Variables created inside a function are local by default and variables created outside a function are global by default. And use global if you want to read and update a global variable inside a function. And also writing global outside a function, it does nothing at all. So it has no effect. But here is a warning. Using too many global variables can make your code messy and harder to debug. So only use global keyword when you really need it. And that's it, my friends. You now understand local versus global scope and the power of the global keyword in Python. If you found this explanation helpful, do me a small favor, hit that like button to support the channel. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss beginner friendly Python lessons, and drop a comment below. Did you ever run into error because of scope? And share your story. Remember, variables are like roommates, they all have their own space, but sometimes you share. Just don't forget whose room is whose. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep coding and keep smiling.